Good morning, good morning. So, halfway through December, and it's that time when everybody, well, I don't know about everybody, but it's that time when people are starting to look at what their plans are for the coming year. And I'm going to do a series this week on exactly that subject, planning for next year. Haven't worked out all the components yet, but today we're going to be looking back, because the first thing you do when you look forward is look back, pick up the lessons from what we've picked up this year, and take those into next year. So, how did you do in 2020? This is James Foster and Careers Matter. What were your goals for the year? How have you done generally? What went well for you? What went badly? And yes, I know none of us knew how this year was going to go, but then we never really do we? So we all know that this year's been totally disrupted. But last year was totally disrupted in other ways, and you know, we have to make do with the situation and that we find ourselves in, and take ourselves through that, and then move on forward from there. So let's have a look again at the last 12 months. If I transport myself back to December, pretty much this time in December last year, the Conservative government had just won a general election, and although the COVID virus was a thing, it was only a thing in China that we knew of at the time. And I was looking out over the next 12 months thinking, this can't be as bad as the last 12 months. You know, last year, so 2019, was a very disruptive year because of all the politics that was going on. And disruption in recruitment is a bad thing. And I'm a recruiter, so you know, I was coming into December, the general election had just taken place, the Conservatives had got in, and irrespective of what your politics, what that said to me was, we're going to get some stability. And although right at that instant I didn't know that you know, exactly what would happen with Europe, the one thing I did know is that Europe would be, that the whole thing would be dealt with, because the Conservative majority was so big that they weren't reliant upon Labour for anything anymore, and they could take through their policy. So we were looking at political stability, if nothing more, and the Brexit thing was gonna be a thing of the past. Now, the one thing that anybody in business will tell you is that they need stability. They need a certain level of assurance before they can make plans. And for my business, that was exactly the same, because I now knew that all my potential clients would have a stable environment to plan for. And I should imagine that for most of you who might listen to this, in the jobs that you're in at the time, that you probably had quite a high expectation of outcome for 2020. And so my goals that I set for the year were not overly ambitious, but I wanted some stability into the business. I wanted to get to build up several, shall we say, reliable and consistent clients, which is something that I'd failed to really do for the previous couple of years because of the uncertainty. Good morning, Angela. And so my goal for the year was to build up a decent client base. And what I meant by a decent client base was something like 4 or 5 regular customers, and probably another half a dozen customers on that I could go back to. And you know, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of how recruitment works to tell you what that means, but most customers you work with will be good for a number of roles in a year, whether that's 1, 2, 4, whatever it is. And if you're thinking about how many placements you want to make for that year, then there's ratios and there's numbers and there's stuff like that to be done. And I'd worked all that out and come up with this idea that I probably needed about 4, maybe 5 consistent customers. Those are ones that were going to deliver roles to me each month, and another 5 or 6 that I could go to from time to time. So they would be turn to customers, shall we say, if that's an expression at all. But I think you probably understand the concept of it. The idea that if that there are other organisations out there that I know that know me, and that I can work with when it suits both of us. If you get the gist. That was what my goal was in terms of customers, and in terms of revenue and turnover like that. I wanted to be making between 1 and 2 placements a month every month, and that's quite significant. Obviously, if I could make 2 placements a month, that'd be fantastic. But if we could do 1 placement a month, that's 12 placements. If we could do another placement every other month, then we've got up to 18 placements, and somewhere between 12 and 18 placements a year is a good turnover for a business like mine. That would provide me the level of stability, etc. That was what my goal was for this year, and we fell short. As soon as we hit the COVID situation, the whole concept of regular, consistent customers went through the floor, as it probably did with you in your careers, and in the plans that you were making, the ideas that you could take forward. Now, for some people, it's probably proven quite lucrative. There will be people that have done well out of this, and there will be most of us that have actually done badly. And so we're coming off the back of a year that was totally unpredictable, totally unpredicted and unpredictable, where what we'd actually planned for the year has not really come to fruition. And the reason it's not come to fruition is beyond our control. But what we now do with that, and what we have done with it, was in our control, and how we managed it. So in March, and I don't know about anybody else, but to be honest with you, I did not see it coming. I saw that we would have some disruption. I'm not blind to what the news was saying, but I did not see the extent that the government was going to put us into a continuous period of lockdown for, what was it, 4 or 5 months? I didn't see that happening. And for them to unroll it so slowly and then to push us back in again, I never saw that coming. I didn't see the disruption that this situation was going to bring to us. The rights and the wrongs of that are not relevant at the moment. The disruption is. But back in March, when it did happen, the first thing that I did was I said, we have got to be ready to take the business into the next level when we get out of this. And so I put a lot into place, and I spent probably 2 months putting into place all the things that I needed to get this business, to keep this business going. I'm not going to go into detail of what that entailed, but the point was that I was going to be ready to take the business forward. Roll forward a couple of months to May, and it was becoming then clear that this was a long haul, and that just having the business ready as things started to open up again wasn't going to be good enough, because there was going to be no certainty. And at that time, I was thinking that was going to be the situation probably until September. And that was what was on my mind. So I then decided that what I needed to do was look at a second line of revenue. And so I created Careers Matter, which is where we are today, which is a consulting business. And the idea of this is that I know the recruitment industry, I know how it works, and I know why it often doesn't work, and I know how to work it effectively, so that people who are looking for jobs and don't really understand how to position themselves to get those jobs, I can help them to do that. I know what will work for them, and I know what won't work for them, and therefore I'm in a very, very good position to help them even in the most difficult of markets. And the one thing that is true, that throughout all of this, there has been recruitment activity. It's just there wasn't recruitment activity that was easy for a recruiter to get hold of. There was plenty of stuff going on in-house in certain areas. You can imagine, can't you? You've got let's just put a number on it. You've got 20,000 recruitment agencies all chasing around after probably 30 to 40% of the jobs that there were before the problem had happened. And that type of a market just isn't going to work for recruiters, particularly since most of the companies that were still recruiting had their own internal recruitment prospect, and they were laying off they were furloughing their internal recruiters quite strongly, but still wanting to manage the whole process themselves. So, but the point was there was still recruitment going on, and so understanding how that was working, then I knew that we could work with people to get things to happen and to move forward on an individual basis if people did the right thing. If they did what we said, they would get the results that we were suggesting they were going to get. No guarantees in anything, there never are, but it would increase people's chances massively. So that's what we decided to do, to create a second revenue stream and to take that forward. So now we're coming out of this year. It's not been a good year from a revenue perspective. It's been quite poor, but I feel that I'm in a position now where I have got two definite revenue streams that I can take forward into 2021. So I've dealt with me a lot in this brief chat this morning. I want to reflect that. I want you to reflect the same way on what you've done yourself. The idea here is if you're going to plan for 2021, to have a look very clearly at what position you're in right now, and what you've got to take forward into the next year. Whether you're doing a business plan, whether you're doing a career plan, whether you're doing a life plan, whatever it is you're doing, it's the same. It's the same, if you like, idea, the same concept. Look back. What's worked, what hasn't worked, what can you take from that, what condition are you in to go forward, and therefore what do you need to take yourself forward. Now, tomorrow, it's a question of, okay, that's where we've been, where are we now, and where do we want to get to? So that's the next question. Where are we now, and where do we want to get to? So that's going to be the meat of what tomorrow is about, and projecting yourself into that position. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk about the mindset that's needed to get that to happen. And on Thursday and Friday, we'll address those when we get to them. But the idea is once we know where we want to get to, where we are now, where we want to get to, have thought about and looked at what the mindset should be, we then look at how to put the detail into the plan that we then must action. And so Thursday and Friday is going to be about creating that action plan that's going to get us to the next level over the next year. So I hope there's been some value in that to you. And I've talked a lot about myself. The idea of me talking about myself isn't for you to think how wonderful I am or whatever. The idea of it is that you think in the same way about yourself and about what you've done well, what you've done badly, what you wanted to achieve, what you have achieved, and then we're in a position to know where we're going to move forward to from tomorrow onwards. James Foster, Careers Matter, and speak again tomorrow.